Hello everybody, Beth's Golden here today. I actually wanted to share with you my vacation album that I put together with our trips that we did last summer. We are a family that love to travel. That's the passion, and we just absolutely love it. So I put together the best summer we've ever had vacation-wise in my eyes. I did an album, and sometimes when you're doing albums, it's really hard to make the theme cohesive, and you have a lot of pictures. So I'm going to show you some things that I did to help pull the album together. And this took me I worked on it over about 2 weeks, 2 hours a night. So I think it took between 10 and 12 hours to complete this album. And with as many pictures and pages as I got done, that's not so bad. The album that I actually picked up for it is this one. It's Tell Your Story by Heidi Swapp. I pulled the pages out because of the reflection. This is right here, this little pocket is where I put our little, stuff that we collected, pamphlets and whatnot of the trip. And then to get the whole album to be cohesive, I went ahead and used lots of colors, the 16 sheet paper collection by Canvas Core Brands, as well as the rainbow printed solid colors. This is a 16 paper collection as well. They really go nicely together. And then I took out my star die cut out of my stash, and I just die cut a whole bunch of different stars. I took one of the pages to create a template. So what I did, and this template has clearly been used, as you can tell with mist and such, is I just washi taped together pieces out of my scraps with the stars in the center, 12 by 12, to be able to cover up the entire area so I wouldn't get any kind of lines as I misted my stars on my pages as well. So let me go ahead and show you what I did. In addition to those items, I did use some glimmer mist, and every little sticker that you see or gem I found at the dollar store. I think I spent $5 on gems there. So this album cost me relatively $35 to put together. So this is the first page. This is us out in front of the White House, and I just put a simple title in the star and just did some placement on that. And then the first place that my son and daughter and I went to was Disneyland. So I used my star stencil template to create the background on this one. And then again, the bling. And then, of course, this is us checking out the new movies that Disney has out. We actually got to see the first 10 to 15 minutes of this before it was released in California Adventure, which was cool. I was starting off with the days of the week and the date on the side, but I eventually abandoned that. And then these are the photo ops. This is why my daughter wanted to go to Disneyland. I thought I really lucked out in the sense that when she was little, she never wanted to wait in line for the princesses. But boy, when she got older, and they bought out Marvel, we had to wait in line for the superheroes, which was just as bad. And so for this, there's so many pictures here that I ended up creating a pocket to house all the pictures, because if I were to just go ahead and try to scrapbook all of these, it would probably take me an additional 3 pages. So I created a lot of pockets and files in this album. And then, of course, my son Parker, who actually is named after Peter Parker, and his favorite superhero. Again, I used that mist, and for the upper side, I didn't use a stencil. I just simply misted it with a coordinating red color. And then he really wanted to go over and ride this ride and meet all these superheroes. This one he simply did for me. He's not a huge fan of her. He was kind of shy, which was cute. This one is a fun little die cut that I used with the Tonic Studios die cut, and you basically pull it down and it pulls down all of those little pictures. So it is so cute, and this is such a great way to take pictures that I really honestly didn't know where they would fit. They didn't have a home, but I want them to be showcased. And I just created this waterfall effect out of the dye from Tonic. And I will have the link provided down below on where to get that. This is Fantasyland. And I love this picture of my son with his light up lights, little ears, and his backpack that we had to get him for school. We got his back to school backpack there. And then this is cool. This is over in Tomorrowland. And they have the entire, there's this white building that, oh gosh, it's 2 stories. It's so cool. It's all Star Wars, and you got to meet the Star Wars folks, and it was awesome. This is probably one of my favorites. So you got to meet the dark side and the rebels. And for this, I actually used glaze on that. That is a Glimmer Glaze by Tattered Angels in blue. Again, I did on this, it's actually just paint that I used on the stencil. This is over on Sawyer Island at Disneyland. And then these are just some fun outtakes that I had of the kids and I as we were waiting for our lunch. The kids wanted to get a Monte Cristo. That's what I grew up on, so I had to get them that. And we were waiting for lunch, just being silly. And then next up, I think I skipped a page. Nope. Is our family trip to Washington, D.C. We were there for 10 days. I have the entire rundown of everything that we did and links to places to go and things like that on my blog, betsgolden.com. Go ahead, I have that provided down below as well. I think there's an 11 or 13-day series that I did on this. It's very extensive. If you are going on vacation, taking teenagers, whatever, you're going to want to read it, you guys. It's extensive, and I have some tips and tricks and things like that over there. And then this is just, I love to take pictures of buildings. So this is the archives, which is really cool. If you don't know what the Archives of the United States is, it actually houses our Constitution, the first 10 amendments, and the Bill of Rights, which you can see. Plus, it has the flag. Now, when I came to Washington, D.C. back in 1989, the flag was over in the, I believe it was the U.S. History Smithsonian Museum, and they have since moved it over here. This, our first flag, has been through a lot, and it is finally restored and over in the archives in an airtight, sealed area, and it talks about the rundown of everything. It is so interesting. One of my favorite spots I didn't really know we could see was definitely the Archives of the United States, and we almost missed it because we went in last minute. Mount Vernon, George Washington's estate. This is a wonderful place to visit. The animals that are still at Mount Vernon are actually the offspring of the animals that George Washington and Martha Washington owned. Do you know that there are no living relatives to George Washington? He had no children, and when he died, his nephews took over the property, and they got into law. One was a lawyer, one was one of the first Supreme Court judges, I believe. I could be wrong, but yeah, his entire line has died out. We no longer have anyone related to George Washington. Smithsonian Castle was absolutely beautiful. For this, I created some file folders. I just used a template of another little file folder that I had on hand, because again, I ended up taking a whole bunch of pictures, and I didn't want to not print them. I wanted them all to be printed, and so I took all these pictures and then I just shoved them into these little file folders. There's some more in there too. Again, I used the paint and the glaze for this, and as you can see, my stencil started to get a little bit sloppy, so I had to recreate another stencil to do this with as well. Georgetown was amazing. My daughter met her favorite author, had a signed book, and then I created another file folder, only this time I cut the edges down so you could kind of see the pictures. We went here just because we needed a day to kind of chill out and relax. It ended up being a wonderful day. Georgetown is a historic town. There is history there, but we simply were there for the shops. And it was wonderful. I think we did this on like day 8 and we were leaving at day 10. Tomb of the Unknown Soldier is another one where I got a lot of wonderful pictures too. And it's Arlington. If you're not familiar with Arlington, Arlington is Robert E. Lee's old home. Robert E. Lee was the general of the Confederate Army back in 1860 through 1865. And this was his home. They turned it into the National Cemetery to disgrace General Lee. And it has ended up being one of the nation's most treasured and loved properties that we have. This is the Challengers, the Challenger that blew up. All of their memorial, I should say, is here. And then we got to see the wreath changing. And we also were present for a burial, which is very cool because with what's going on in Arlington right now is they are running out of space. So it used to be if you were a soldier, and I think if you had a fight in war, you could get buried here, but that's no longer the case. You have to have certain ranks and have done certain things. Presidents can be buried here as well, but they're a little bit picky now with who can be buried here. But the grounds are beautiful. You definitely have to be quiet. If you are not quiet during the changing of the guard or up where the unknown soldier is, they will ask you to leave. The soldiers don't put up with it, and nobody really tried to test that. When I was back there in 1989, my brother was 5 years old, and he was leaning on, oh gosh, I think the side of a building during the changing of the guards or right before it started, and the guard yelled, "Please, so-and-so, get off of the building," and we all moved because it was scary. So just know that when you go there. Okay, Smithsonian Museums. This is something else. We have a lot of hodgepodge of pictures on this, and so I ended up making another little pocket behind the picture, and then here's another little pocket with some more pictures on it, and this was just a couple different Smithsonians that we went to. We did do all of the Smithsonian museums when we were there. That is Abraham Lincoln's top hat. Can you believe that? That is at the U.S. History Smithsonian Museum. How cool, huh? This is the Holocaust Museum, and it was moving. My daughter actually was the one that really wanted to go to this. She learned about the Holocaust. She knew about the Holocaust Museum, and so we did this on the first day we were there. I do not recommend doing this on the first day that you're there simply because it is so heavy. It's emotionally hard, but it's something you have to see. It is fantastic. It is necessary, and if you are in DC, you really need to go, but I would do something a little bit different the first day. With that being said, I would do it all over again. We couldn't get tickets. Tickets were sold out online. So that's why I did it the first day. But if you can get it the second or third day or stay, I definitely would. And it's a must see. It's incredible. These are the shoes. That was the only remains of the people that the Nazis basically burned. And they had more value for their shoes and the soles in those shoes than the souls of the Jews that they ended up cremating. And it's awful and gassing. It's just, I cried like a baby. So all this is over on my blog and more. National Mall, we did that for one day. And again, I did a little pocket back here with some more pictures. I love this. This actually is right outside the National Mall. It's Einstein. It's so cool. I just love how the light hits this picture, and his statue is just so whimsical and it's almost like friendly to a child, and people go up and rub the nose and things because it's supposed to be for good luck, and it's just beautiful. This is the newer memorial. It's the World War II memorial. And then, of course, the Washington Monument. Excuse me, she's standing out in front of Arizona because that's where we are. This is the Korean War. This was fantastic. I had never been to this one before. Basically, they have a bunch of soldiers in bushes, statues, and then they have this freedom is not free. It's a beautiful memorial. This is the Washington Monument, again with my boys. This is the Vietnam Wall. my daughter outside of the World War II memorial. I think it's a memorial. I'm not sure if it's a monument. The difference between a memorial and a monument is a monument starts to be built when the person is alive. A memorial happens after the person is gone, is dead. So that's the difference. And I don't know. I think that World War II started to be built obviously when veterans were still alive. So I believe that this is a monument. Washington Monument. And then, of course, the iconic Vietnam veterans. And my daughter again. So that's the National Mall. And, oh, this is my very favorite picture I took of Thomas Jefferson in that building and Abraham Lincoln. I mean, that's just stellar. I mean, you can't beat that. The next one up is just some... I love the architecture of Washington, D.C., and it's so cool. So I just took some pictures all over the city that's in the neighborhood we lived in or we stayed in. And I just took the pictures and just made a little side long pocket and stuff them on in here of all the cool buildings that were around in D.C. I love these. This little church... I believe is in Logan Square, which is right by where we were staying. And I just pass that every day, and I just absolutely was enthralled with it. The churches, everything out there is so beautiful. This is actually outside of Ford's Theater, where Abraham Lincoln was shot. I just love that. And then this one. And then we have the Wax Museum. This is a fun place to go to get out of the heat or just to relax and chill out. I love the Wax Museum. I have more pictures over on my blog of us over there just goofing around and having some fun. This one is awesome. It really looks like him and her. But my family is quite the ham. And what's funny is we went to this just to have some fun and relax, but it was towards the end of our trip, and so we had seen all of these historical sites. So this really was a reinforcement of what we had learned, and it helped solidify everything we had learned. So I highly, highly recommend wax museums. I go to every one I can in each city that I can get to because they're all different. They all are made for the area. Hollywood's is all a whole bunch of Hollywood stars. Washington, D.C. obviously is politicians. And then my daughter, of course, mimicking him. So we just had so much fun at the Wax Museum. And then, let's see here. Of course, they have all the presidents and things like that. And of course, me with Uncle Sam and how he wants you. So, and as you can see, I did utilize this. It would be called white space, even though it's not white. It's just a blank space, and it's pretty pleasing to the eye. And you can see right here, you know, that there's pictures and whatnot. And then last but not least, this is the conclusion to my album, and it's our family picture out in front of the Wax Museum. So I hope you enjoyed this little walkthrough of my album from our vacation. Make sure you check out those links I provided down below if you're interested in anything. And please head over to my blog and just check out my series that I have on our trip to Washington, D.C. this summer. If you haven't subscribed, please go ahead and do so. Feel free to share this video, give it a thumbs up, and if you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. Until next time, happy crafting.